Today we're going to be making this adorable and simple striped and ribbed baby beanie. And this is part of our 4 skein beanie challenge where we're going to use every inch of 4 skeins of yarn. And for this beanie, I am working with some size 4 medium weight wool yarn. And these are all by the Cascade yarns, and they're left over from my 4 skein beanie challenge. And the colors are Sky, Alpine, Copper, and Natural. I'm also going to be using a size H or 8 or 5mm crochet hook. And you also want to have 3 stitch markers or safety pins handy so that you don't have to cut and tie off your yarn whenever you want to change colors. And we're going to work this beanie from the top down, so go ahead and grab whichever color you want to be at the top and the bottom of your beanie. And we're going to attach this yarn to our crochet hook using a magic circle. And we're going to chain 2 and place 11 double crochets inside of our magic circle. And if you're unfamiliar with any of the stitches used in this pattern, including that magic circle, then check the links in the description because I will have my stitch tutorials listed down there for you. And once you have your 11 double crochets inside your magic circle, then you're just going to pull on your tail to tighten the gap in your magic circle. And from here, we're going to skip our chain 2 and place a slip stitch in the top of our first double crochet. For this row, we're going to place 2 back post stitches in each stitch in our row. So I'll show you how to do that. We're going to begin with a yarn over, and then we're going to insert our crochet hook in the gap between our chain 2 and our first double crochet. And we want to insert our crochet hook from behind like this. Then we're going to insert our crochet hook between our first and second double crochet. So we should have captured our first double crochet in our crochet hook like this. From here, we're going to yarn over and pull up through our post, and then yarn over and drop 2 loops at a time to complete our stitch. So now we're going to add another back post stitch around that first double crochet, just like we did. And from here, we're just going to work that same pattern around our next double crochet, capturing it in our crochet hook like this. So like I said, we're going to place 2 back post stitches around each stitch in our row, and I think you'll find that these subsequent back post stitches are a lot easier to place than that first one. And at the end of your row, you should have a total of 24 back post stitches. And when you get to the end of your row, I want you to work around your chain 2, just like you did around your double crochets, and that will give you your 24 back post stitches. And again, we're just going to place 2 back post stitches around our chain 2. And from here, we're going to place a slip stitch in the top of our first back post stitch. And we're going to remove our crochet hook from this loop and place a safety pin in it. And when you pull on your working yarn, the safety pin should not allow this loop to get lost, so you won't drop any stitches. And when you need to reinsert your crochet hook, you can just pull your safety pin out. And we're going to attach our next color to our crochet hook using a slip knot. And then working right here in this same stitch where you just placed a slip stitch at the end of your last row, we're going to insert our crochet hook. And then we're just going to yarn over and drop all of the loops on our crochet hook for a slip stitch. And then we're going to chain 2. And this chain 2 is going to count as your first double crochet. And the pattern for this row is going to alternate between placing 1 and 2 double crochets in each stitch in your row. So go ahead and repeat that pattern going around your row, and when you get done, you should have a total of 36 double crochets. And at the end of your row, you're going to skip your chain 2 and place a slip stitch in the top of your first double crochet. And the pattern for this next row is to place one back post stitch in our first 2 stitches, and then we're going to place 2 back post stitches in our third stitch. And we just want to repeat that pattern going around our row, and when we get done, we should have a total of 48 back post stitches. And at the end of your row, make sure you place your last 2 back post stitches around your chain 2 here. And from here, we're just going to place a slip stitch in the top of our first back post stitch, and we want to place another safety pin in this loop. And we're going to attach our next color to our crochet hook using a slip knot. And again, we want to place a slip stitch back in that same stitch where we've already placed a slip stitch. And for this row, we're going to chain 2, and that last row was our last row of increasing. So for this row, we're just going to place 1 double crochet in each stitch in our row going all the way around. And that chain 2 does count as your first double crochet, so you should have a total of 48 double crochets when you're done. And at the end of your row, you're going to skip your chain 2 and place a slip stitch in the top of your first double crochet. And for this row, we're just going to place 1 back post stitch in each stitch in our row going all the way around. We want to make sure that we work in the chain 2 at the end of our row. So we should have a total of 48 back post stitches when we're done. And at the end of the row, you're going to place a slip stitch in the top of your first back post stitch. And then we're going to trade out our safety pin from that first color and our crochet hook. And from here, we're just going to chain 6. And we're going to place a slip stitch in the top of our first back post stitch, and then we're just going to repeat our last 2 rows, placing our row of double crochets and then our row of back post stitches. And we're just going to repeat these 2 rows to build the body of our beanie, and we're going to chain 6 for each of our color changes. So go ahead and repeat this, and I'll show you how we're going to finish up our beanie. And I repeated this pattern until I had a total of 8 of my color sections here. And so now we're just going to cut and tie off our yarn for all 3 strands. And now I'm going to hide all of my tails on the inside of my beanie. And after adding your pom-pom, your beanie should look something like this. Thank you so much for working with me, and I hope you have a wonderful, awesome day. And don't forget to check the links in the description for those other beanies in this series.